Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Knecht, and this is a podcast dedicated to helping owners of accounting, bookkeeping, and tax businesses thrive and actually have the businesses they've always desired, offering quality accounting services and getting paid what they're worth. Each and every week, we have on guests, experts in their own right, to actually help us focus on our businesses. In fact, build the organizations that we've dreamt of, whether we're solo entrepreneurs or owners of accounting firms, tax firms, businesses that we're running. We need this type of advice, and this is going to be a great day today. We have an expert on, a guest that I've been looking forward to having on the show for some time. It's Alyssa Dillon. She has worked in the financial space for more than 15 years, and during this time, she has mastered the way business owners feel about their money, why they are hiring financial professionals, and what motivates them to pay for those services. Even better, she has developed and deployed strategies to help not only herself reach multi-six-figure incomes with her virtual accounting firm, but she's also been helping others as financial pros do the same. She has been very lucky to actually work with a variety of coaches, consultants, and service providers in their financial industries, build as well multi-six and seven-figure incomes and companies. And with that, she also has a great devotion to helping women make more money, end generational poverty, and build generational wealth. So Alyssa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the intro there.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. So first of all, we've known one another for a little bit of time. So I'm going to just start with a little bit of a backstory. Why don't you share with everyone basically your coming into accounting and how you got into the accounting profession?
Yeah, absolutely. So, starting my accounting career and the decision to actually jump into accounting is not very sexy. In fact, I read one day, if you don't like blood and you don't like people, become an accountant. And that ended up how I decided to choose the career path in college in the accounting industry. Come to find out, people became a very big part of my life and an important part of growing my own practice, and is a huge part of what I do today. And turns out I do love people. I just didn't think I did, right?
Yeah. So one of the things that got you into this, I know, ended up being a corporate person, very young, very successful. Share with us a little bit of that.
Yeah. I had gone to community college first, and right out of community college, I decided to get a job. I was fairly young. I was only 19 years old, and I got my first accounting job. And it wasn't long after that I was being looked at as a leader in my industry, and I was leading teams of 20, 30 women, men in accounting. And from there, I had moved on, started advancing my education, and I ended up taking a controller and then into a CFO role by the time I was 25. So I was a very young CFO, and learned a lot really on the job. So it was interesting enough. A lot of my college professors were actually interviewing me, asking me, how did I have this career at such a young age? And I think it really came down to the fact that I was just advancing so well because I was just paying attention. I was watching other CFOs. I was watching other people advancing in the career, and I was looking at, like, what are they doing to move quickly? And I wanted to do the same. And really, it was failure wasn't an option. I wanted to move quick in my career, and I wanted to make a lot of money.
I love it. No, the passion is obvious and all that. Now you get to the point where you're very successful. You're the CFO. What changed in your life to cause you move in the direction that you did?
Babies.
Yeah.
Babies. I have two boys. They're now 6 and 7, but at the time I had two kiddos back to back in 1 year. They're Irish twin boys. And at the time I had totally planned to continue my role as a CFO in the company. But after finding out I was pregnant with my second son, and both of my kids had some health issues going on, I had realized this perfect storm where it was maybe time that I step away from that position. And I had in the back of my mind, like, I could probably get a couple clients. I could probably start maybe a bookkeeping or accounting business on my own. And interestingly enough, I had a few people who were reaching out to me saying like, hey, do you think you could do some of our accounting? And I was turning those people down at the time because I was so busy. So when this perfect storm was occurring, our executive director had changed over. They were not wanting me to work remotely as much. They were asking me to come into the office more. My workload was increasing. These boys needed me at home. And what it comes down to, Roger, is I felt like I wasn't good at anything at that point in my life. I didn't feel like I was a good mom because when I was home, I was thinking about being, I wanted to be, when I was home with my kids, I was thinking about all of the things that I was falling behind on at work. And when I was at work, I wanted to be home with my kids.
Yeah.
So it was just this scenario where I was totally unhappy in my life. And I thought, I have no other choice. I need to do something different here. And at that point, I made a decision that I would ultimately start what would become my firm. And at the time, I had a domain name and a logo, very few prospects, but I had a belief in myself that I could probably make it work. And I put a timeline that I would quit after I got a few clients, but I was pushed in a scenario where it was kind of do or die. And I ended up quitting very quickly. In fact, I went into work one day, I was sick, and I was asked, like, how are you doing? And I was like, I'm not doing well. And, you know, there wasn't a lot of empathy or compassion for what I was going through at that moment. A huge laundry list of things were added to my plate to get done that day. And I was like, actually, I'm just going to go. I'm going to leave right now. And that was my last day in corporate.
Wow.
And I held it together in that moment and setting my laptop down on the desk and walking out and gathering my things. But man, when I got in the car, I cried like a baby.
Well, I think the story you're sharing is one that a lot of people can relate to. One, that transition from kind of working in the workplace, being a W-2 employee, and then all of a sudden finding yourself basically starting a business, being an entrepreneur, transitioning into this new space. It takes a lot. And that emotional drain that you just spoke of, I think is very, very real. It's very, very palpable for a lot of people. And all of a sudden you're in this situation where you're going to have to make this work. And that's a different mindset. That's a different challenge. And you embraced it. And obviously you've got something that you've thrived at now. But one of the things that I want to point out is how it was all family focused. You've got your two boys there and you were being torn apart. And at some point you broke and obviously needed to put the priorities where they needed to be. And you did so with the family. And all of a sudden you've from that pivoted in time to build your business. Is there anything more you'd want to add to that?
I think that where I was in that moment, and anyone who's listening to this who is at that place where they're considering quitting their job or they're confused about starting their business and they see it as their option out, right? Maybe they're worried about if I start my business or, my employer sees me doing this and what if I get fired, right? There's all those fears. And what I would say is don't make that decision out of fear. Make it out of what is the best for you, what's the best for the people around you and your family. And I regret nothing that I did that day. Walking out was the best decision that I ever made. And since then, I've been able to create an incredible impact on both my children's lives and the ripple effect of being able to create jobs and create an awesome workplace that allows moms to have the freedom to take care of their children and not feel like they are bad at their work and bad at being a mom at the same time. I have that freedom to be able to start that company. And so just do it.
Well, what did you learn about yourself as you started your own business and took on clients and started providing accounting services? What did you learn about yourself that was maybe a shock or a surprise?
I would I would say I knew I was a leader, but I didn't realize how well I would become a leader and what was important to me. I was put in a lot of leadership positions being so young, but I was always in corporate. You are put in scenarios where you're constantly second guessing yourself, right? And what I found in growing my business is that I was able to create a whole new level of who I was And I became so much more empowered and confident. I'm a completely different person than I was when I started my business to who I am today, and
Yeah.
even through growing that firm, because I I was able to unlearn a lot of those societal norms of, you know, making sure it was okay and checking in and being second guessed, and questioning your every move. So, and this is such a huge part of growing a firm and becoming the CEO is unlearning these expectations and really learning to stop judging yourself for making mistakes and for failing. We judge ourselves so much as as we grow as humans, and it's deciding to allow yourself to make those mistakes and fail, and that's just part of progress.
Yeah. So you obviously have a passion for working with women. I said in the very beginning in the introduction that you care deeply about women making more money. And I really like this emphasis that you have on ending generational poverty as well as building generational wealth. I wanted to talk about those two things. Why the passion about ending generational poverty? What does that mean? And how do you feel you address that with the women that you interact with?
Ooh, you're gonna get me emotional here, Roger. Um, I have very humble beginnings. My mom raised me as a single mother, and I watched her work multiple jobs and work very hard. I remember she couldn't even afford childcare, so I stayed home alone at a very young age and really took care of myself before it was probably allowed and society found that acceptable, right? So I remember making myself dinner as a little girl and being alone a lot. And I know what me and my mom got through to be where we are. And I see other women, mothers, going through that same thing today. And so the really what I my mission on in life is to show women that are going through this, or they feel like they have to work but they can't afford the childcare, and we're put in these terrible economic situations where we have these beliefs around that there's never enough, and that we're always going to be stuck in poverty, and that we could never make enough money. And the reality is very different. The reality is that there is enough money out there. And it really is about making a choice to go after it. And whatever amount of money you want to make is right there for you. It's your choice to go get it. And it's putting yourself in the right rooms with the right people to show you that if I can do this, you can do this. Because I didn't come from wealth. I didn't come from a family that showed me that I could become a millionaire. I could become a seven-figure earner, but here I am. And that came from putting myself with the right people and shifting my beliefs. And so for me, I want the women that are maybe in the same situation, raising little girls just like me, or little boys, that they want better for their children. They want better for themselves, that it is possible for you. And I feel as though I have ended generational poverty for my family. And I want to help other women do the same for them.
I appreciate you sharing that. One of the things that I think is so important is just the fact that we as individuals all have our own upbringings. It's obviously natural that we have our youth to kind of reflect upon, and for many of us, myself included, I likewise came from a family that wasn't well-to-do. I remember distinctly uh, taking advantage of various subsidized programs as a child. The lunch program at school. My best friend, next door neighbor, was, as you were describing, a latchkey kid is what we referred to it as. And he came home and his mom didn't arrive until 6, 7 o'clock at night. And oftentimes he was with us, or more importantly, we were over at his home, and there was no parental guidance in that setting. So as you're describing this, it's reminding me of things I'm familiar with and experienced myself. But the point is you were able to break that chain. And I think your story is inspirational in the sense that you're showing it can be broken. And through good work, through tenacity, through a mind shift, you can actually break that generational poverty, as you were mentioning that. And really, at the end of the day, I think what you're sharing is true and valid. One of the things that I think is very important is just to realize that there is an abundance of things in the world, and you just need to tap into it. And there's various ways to do so, but at the end, you can provide for yourself, for your family, and really make a big difference. And you've been a proof of that. So thank you for it. Let's talk about the generational wealth that you reference. I'm familiar with generational wealth. It's a concept in the financial world you've got success in building wealth, and then there's generational wealth. How are you describing it?
This is interesting. I've been thinking a lot more about generational wealth recently, and really like life overall is like this game, right? And at the end of the day, like I may make exponential amount of money that I may pass on to my children, and ultimately show them that they have more options and have more choices. And so I think the wealth that I truly want to pass on, maybe not the assets, right? Like, sure, I can pass on these assets, and maybe there will be homes and funds that are there, right? Estates for my children. But more than anything, I hope to pass on to my children the wealth of knowledge that they can create their own wealth. I think that is the most important piece of this, where people like myself, and like yourself, Roger, where when you are raised in a family where poverty is very prevalent, and you are relying on programs to get by, and lunch programs. And for me, it was my mom working 3 jobs just to get by, right? I want my children to know, like, that doesn't have to be the way. And by them watching me, they can see that they can create the type of life that they want, the type of revenue they want, the type of business, if that's what they choose to do. But the wealth really is a wealth of knowledge that you're not trapped, you're not stuck. And so assets, estate, sure, but I think the wealth of knowledge, and you can truly create the life you desire more than anything.
That's beautiful. You're reflecting on the sacrifices that your mother made. I'm thinking, as you're sharing that, of my mother's sacrifices. We obviously weren't well-to-do, as I mentioned, but I remember her taking some jobs, one of which was a piano player at a kind of like a dance studio where she would play the piano for those that were doing their routines. And it was all because she wanted to fund my getting some work on my teeth done. We couldn't afford it otherwise, and she wanted to invest in me. And honestly, I'm indebted to that. I mean, the teeth work that I had done back then, I can't even describe the doors that it's opened. Just not having the awkward teeth that I had at that point in my youth, but those were sacrifices she made. And when you're talking about generational wealth, like you, I'd like to, through opportunities, give my children choices, options, give them the freedom to maybe test and fail. And fortunately, my children are all older now, and I'm seeing that they do have that. My daughter happens to have her own salon, and my other daughter has a boutique store that she's been running. These are all simply because of the fact that they felt that they could take those risks, those options. And I believe that was because of choices I've been able to make in my parenting to open those doors for them. And I'm not trying to take any credit. I definitely want to give them the credit that's owed them. But I believe that the options that they're able to see are because of the fact that I've been very blessed in my life and gave them a childhood that they were able to benefit from. So for everyone listening, I think what we're talking about here is just as any parent would expect is, how can I help my child get a leg up and have a little bit better of a situation than what maybe we experienced. My children definitely didn't experience the poverty that I was raised in. And I am pleased to be able to say that I was, through hard work and determination, be able to provide that. So anyways, let's go back to the accounting space. You obviously are mentoring and when working with individuals. So I want to talk about your firm and mastermind groups. Describe your accounting firm, and then let's talk about masterminds and what you think of masterminds.
So, to describe my firm, it's so interesting because I started my firm with the CFO mindset, right? In really a CEO mindset, and I feel this was very unique to me. And I didn't realize it until much later on. And I would say probably in the last year or two, I realized how unique this was. Being a CFO and having people work under me and having the option to delegate, I knew very quickly that I wasn't going to want to do the work. So I immediately hired. I think I looked at my first set or two of books as I brought on clients, and I was like, oh no, I am not going to be able to do bookkeeping. I just knew that I couldn't get into the nitty gritty of the details. I did not want to reconcile, right? I did not want to go through all of the details of actual bookkeeping. So I knew that I wanted to do high level work, and I wanted to be the face of my company without having to sit down and put in the late nights to actually do the bookkeeping and do some of that more data entry. So I hired quickly, and I ended up bringing on 3 employees relative within the first 6 months, I would say. And I scaled very quickly because of that. So moving that same principle on into developing my coaching business and in my mastermind, I use those same exact principles. I realized quickly, I can't do this on my own. I am a leader, I'm a visionary, and I'm going to need a team to support me. So I hired quickly once again, and I've built a team around me to support my community and my mastermind. And so, what do I think of masterminds?
Yeah.
I have been part of so many masterminds, and I think masterminds are an excellent way to build relationships. I think masterminds are they've been essential to my own growth, and I think they're essential to the growth of most of my peers, even in the accounting industry. I find that when people invest in themselves and they surround themselves with people who are in growth mode, who are looking to grow, they grow faster. They follow the goals they want. And I think that comes from being in the room, right? You're in the room with people who are doing what you want to do, and they show you what's possible for you. And I think that's a huge part of it's not always about the core curriculum, right? Like that's part of masterminds. We sell like the core curriculum. We sell these things. We sell you what you want, give you what you need. And really what we need is that community.
Very good. So with masterminds, I've also been involved with a number of them. Answer this question. First, for my listeners, anyone that doesn't know what one is, describe it. And then explain the difference between what might be considered like free mastermind groups that they might be participating in to something that's paid for. How would you distinguish between the two?
So a mastermind is typically, this is how I feel about masterminds.
Okay.
If you ask somebody else, they might have a different answer for you. So I think an amazing mastermind is a mastermind that has no hierarchy. So there's no guru, right? There's no one person who's the know-it-all, the end-all be-all where you get all your answers from. It's a collaborative experience where you feel as though you're able to go to the community and get support from peers that are above you, below you in where you're going, and you're all connected and you're all trying to move towards the same space. And collectively, you all want to do better, right? You're all moving towards a common goal. And when you have a community that's all moving towards a common goal, you are going to get there faster. We see that with teams all the time. There are so many proven studies that actually say if you are working with a team, you will get towards your goals faster, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is what a mastermind truly is. Free versus paid. I'm going to say I've actually never been in a free mastermind.
Oh,
So
really? Okay.
I've never done that. I'm much more of like a paid. I'm like, I want to pay to be in the good stuff, the
Yeah.
exclusive stuff.
Yeah.
So my experience with free is limited, but I'm a big proponent of you pay to pay attention.
Uh-huh.
Actually, I take that back. You know what? This is why I know it's important to be in a paid mastermind, because I
Okay.
am in a free mastermind. I don't pay attention to it. There it is.
Okay.
I just realized that I've participated in free masterminds, and you tend to not pay attention to them, right? When you're paying for something, you put the work in, and it's like, I've made an investment here, so it's going to be of quality, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when something is free, there's no gatekeeping, right? So anybody can kind of get in, and maybe the quality people that would be there maybe wouldn't be paying as much attention because they're in the paid stuff. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
you were describing what I've experienced. I've been in
Yeah.
paid, I've been in free. Free, definitely a little bit more casual. It's a different type of commitment by everyone involved. It's definitely something not very structured or organized. It's not with purpose, not so much intent. I definitely appreciate and valued the relationships I had from it. I will say that I took things because I was going with the intent of bringing out of that experience something of worth. So I was attentive on that front. But when you pay, you're a little bit more committed, you're engaged, and you're different. There's a different caliber of people. There's a level of commitment that definitely steps into, I'm paying for this, I've got to make it work. And so totally different experience. I appreciate both. I've definitely made some good connections in each, but the paid ones, a lot more commitment, a lot more caliber people. And I think it does, like you were saying earlier, it accelerates a lot of the successes that I've had simply because there's accountability, there's a lot more feedback and input, a lot more conscious effort in that. So yeah, I do appreciate the paid masterminds that I've participated in. It kind of goes back to you get what you paid for kind of philosophy, I guess. So that's how I would attribute it.
Yes.
Let's go to attracting higher clients. I know that you're very passionate about this. Definitely when offering CFO related services in your accounting space, you're going to find that you want higher level clients. Define what a higher level client is and why it takes a little bit more of a deliberate effort to get them.
So for me, higher level clients and like these higher ticket clients, right? And we see a lot of this in the coaching space for accountants, right? Everybody wants to get higher level, higher ticket clients, right? Work with fewer clients for more money so you can do less. And I think there's some truth to that, and it's how I built my own business. So for me, what those higher level clients looked like is they were needing more of CFO consultative services because their businesses were in scale mode. So they were looking towards scaling. They needed somebody who wasn't just going to do the data entry and give them the information based on the bookkeeping, but they were going to help them with making critical decisions based on the numbers. So showing them what the numbers really meant and how to make decisions towards their future, and also with cash management. So for me, those high level clients are people who are needing help so they can make more money and keep more money in their bank accounts, and they need those consultative services.
So define for me what a high level client would be paying for such a service. Just to give the listeners some context, are we talking this is a CFO related type service that you're providing, and they're paying maybe $1,000, $3,000? How much are they paying? How often are you meeting with them?
Yeah. So in my experience, I had gotten some high ticket, high level clients, And sometimes this was project work. So I would have clients who maybe just needed a project done, right?
Okay.
So they were maybe a year or two behind on some things. They needed to figure out how to move forward in their company. They needed some cash flow analysis.
Okay.
They needed some projections done. So this could be a project. And I love a project first to move forward with
Okay.
a client so I can have an off ramp. I think it's a great way of figuring out, is this somebody I want to work with long run? I know in the accounting space, we love reoccurring revenue, but I don't necessarily know if I'm going to love you unless I go through this first one-time project with you. So my typical clients would come on anywhere from $5,000, $6,000 to anywhere up to, I think my highest was like an $18,000 project, right?
Okay.
And so we would do that first. It would be 6 to 12 week project where maybe we were meeting once a week during that time. And
Good.
from there, and somebody else would be doing the catch up work, bookkeeping, accounting, but I would be doing the consulting, keeping them updated on the project, what was going on. And I would do the cash flow analysis. I would do the heavy lifting as far as the consulting and making decisions about how to move forward. From there, that's when I would typically say, we should move forward and continue to do your accounting or bookkeeping and this CFO level advisory service from here if it was a good fit. Because you can typically tell in those first few weeks if this is going to be a client that you want to move forward with,
Yeah.
or if you want that off ramp to say, like, here you go, you're all set. Thanks so much. This was fun. In giving yourself that option to offload that client if it's not a good fit, right?
Yeah. Well, what you're describing there, the way I would relate to it is from the project point of view, you're able to do some value pricing. You can clearly determine as you're assessing the project, okay, this is what we're doing. This is the time that we expect it to be. And this is the value add that we're bringing to the business, what it's going to be worth to them. And so you can price accordingly. And so you definitely spoke to that. You've got this 12-week project that you're going to be making $6,000 to $18,000. That's beautiful. You get in, you get to experience now the client. And you said at the very beginning, this is a people business. So at the end of the day, we've got to like who we're working with. And do we see that we can collaborate well? Do they listen to us? Is there some rapport and so forth? So now all of a sudden you've got this off ramp that if you're done with the project and it just wasn't that great of a relationship and you really can't see that they're going to take much from your services, you take it and you run and you move on to the next thing. But if you found that there was that collaboration, that rapport and so forth, that you got excited about their business model and how they run their company, by all means, you can go in and say, hey, this is what we can do on a recurring basis. And now you're actually offering them this recurring fee for your services that you're going to go in. So describe for us that situation. What type of recurring type client would you have? What kind of relationship would you have with them at that point? Give us some price ranges of what those services might entail.
Yeah. So, I think it's really interesting. A lot of times when I talk to accountants, bookkeepers, tax pros, they get really hung up in like the deliverables. They want to know like, well, what report should I give them? What should I do about this? What should I do
I
about
love
this?
it.
And the reality is, I don't know what you should do for your client. You have to discover that through having a conversation with that person and their needs, right? So every client for me was always different. Some of them they needed help with pricing. And so I would do consultations around pricing. Some of them, their cost of goods sold was outrageous. And so I would have to consult with them and come up with a new plan on like, how do we get your COGS down? Because you're never going to be profitable unless we do that. So it was always based on the client's needs. So I think it's so important if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, great, Alyssa's going to give me all the details on how I can offer CFO and advisory level services. I don't have an exact breakdown for you because I don't know what your client needs from you right now, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's meeting with a client, having an understanding of where they're at, what they need, what their challenges are, and listening to them. And at that time, I would say to give you a short, sweet answer to the question directly. At the time, my clients, where I was pricing ongoing services, it was anywhere from $1,500 to about $2,500 a month. My clients today, when I help my clients, I have a client who we just closed an $8,600 advisory level package per month. So it depends on the size of the company, right?
Yep.
It depends on their needs. It's unfortunately, it depends is always the answer.
Yeah. Well, no, I appreciate your answer simply because of the fact that a lot of people do want to know, what does that really look like? For years in the accounting industry, we've been hearing we should be providing more advisory type services. People are interested in, what does that part-time fractional CFO type of experience deliverable look like? What is the fee? And so just getting your insights on what it is that you have experienced and what you would advise is very helpful, because a lot of people have questions around that. When I work with people and I'm answering those questions, there are specific experiences I have that I draw upon, that I advise on. And as I work with individuals that choose to move into that space, I've got a very clear answer for marketing, selling, pricing, deliverable, simply because of the fact that I know that there's a big need out there as to, some direction. So okay, if I'm going to take somebody's money, what am I actually going to deliver 3 months, 6 months, 9 months from now? And so I appreciate this discussion. I think this is a very healthy discussion for us to be having, and I hope the listeners are appreciating it. Here's the last thing I'd want to end on. I know your children are young, but I wanted to ask, as it relates to some of the earlier discussion we had, what do you hope your children are seeing in you or from you as they watch you run your business, build your business? What do you hope they take from this experience as they grow older?
More than anything, I hope that they take that they can be leaders also, that they can follow any kind of dream that they dream up. Both of my children have big aspirations already.
Nice.
My oldest son has discussed that he would like to be like Elon Musk. And, I'm whatever that looks like for him, right? He just knows that Elon Musk has a lot of money. So he's like, he wants to be like Elon Musk. My other son wants to be a YouTuber. And so I'm very encouraging of them following any kind of dream. And I know as adults, we often tell kids to follow their dreams and that they could be anything they want to be. But there's a point in time, we hit this inflection point with young children, or not young children, but young teens, young adults, where we're like, yeah, we told you to dream big, but now let's be realistic, right? Mm-hmm. And I hope that my kids stay delusional, right? I want them to stay totally delusional. I hope that they continue to dream so big that everyone around them thinks that they're wildly imaginative and crazy, and then everyone can ask them how they did it.
Love it. Love it. I love inspiring that. My children, while they were being raised, I was reluctant to say no to a variety of things. I was more willing to say, well, I'm not going to pay for it, but if you want to figure out how to pay for it, if it's that important to you, by all means, go ahead and do it. I'm very much in not trying to discourage or stifle their creativity. I want to say, well, I don't have the money for this. I'm not going to say you can't do it, but I'm just going to say I'm not going to pay for it. And that opened up, I think, a lot of opportunities for them to just simply realize, okay, so, mom and dad aren't saying no, they're just saying they can't afford it. So I just need to figure out how. And that puts on those creative juices for them to become a little bit more creative on their own as to what they're going to do to generate those funds, whether it be saving money, making money. And I think that's a healthy mindset. So I appreciate you kind of sharing the same thing. Here's what I'd like to do. I'm going to kind of wrap up our conversation here. And in wrapping it up, I'm going to come to you for a closing thought. So let me just, first of all, start with, I really feel that at the beginning of the conversation, Alyssa's sharing just kind of her beginnings was very helpful. I think a lot of people come from humble beginnings, myself included, and it's very motivating to realize that through those experiences, we become better people. And I think a lot of us have had the opportunity to really realize within ourselves that we have potential, we have opportunity, and we just need to seize the moment. And from that, she spoke of her leadership skills. She quickly and at a very young age kind of grew up in the ranks. I can relate to that. It's amazing what just focus, tenacity, work ethic can actually achieve. And she, in that experience, became that CFO in her early 20s and really accomplished a lot. I think the other thing that was really helpful in the conversation was how she then had that pivotal moment where her family needed her and she needed to kind of make some decisions and really kind of walk away from that career and sacrifice in a lot of ways for her children, her boys. And I think that's very relatable. I think a lot of people do have those moments where life isn't going exactly as you expected and choices need to be made. And sometimes we make the right decision in going for our family. There's a quote that I was taught early on in my life, and it's something that just stays with me. And it says, no success outside of the home can compensate for failure in the home. And I think that's very true. And I think it kind of resonates here for me. The other thing that was very impactful is as she started her business, she obviously focused on the CFO side of services. She grew her business. She invested, hired people. I thought that was impactful. But then we spoke of masterminds and associating with individuals that kind of push us, drive us as peers to really be our better selves. And when we, through masterminds, get especially into those circles of people that are successful, they drive us to actually do better. It reminds me of that phrase that we're the sum of the 5 people that we associate with the most. And I believe that. So you've got to surround yourself with people that are successful. They cause you to want to make better decisions and do better things, not because you have to, but because you want to. And I really find that that's true in my own life. So I like that part of the discussion today. And then lastly, this whole idea of offering CFO and advisory services, I thought she gave us some good perspective of income range, experiences, fulfillment, and I think that was all very powerful. So great summary with all of that. For more information on how this can go, it's just simply because we're ending the conversation, I'm going to invite everyone to go to the episode description. We'll put some information there on things that you can be doing to offer CFO-related services, some resources on how you can become what we refer to as a profit and growth expert. And in doing all of this, literally work with your clients beyond just the traditional accounting space and get into that more CFO and advisory situation. So go to the episode description for that information. But Alyssa, what would you have as a closing thought?
Closing thought today, beautiful summary there, but my biggest thoughts would be, it really comes down to sitting down, doing the work, and having that tenacity. We often look for the magic bullet or the magic blueprint somewhere from someone, and we look external to ourselves. But the reality is that you are the magic, that you sitting down, doing the work, putting in the time, and becoming the leader that you need to be for your company, for your community, for the people around you, that is going to get you where you want to go. So look to yourself, look to your mentors, and sit down, do the work, and you will get exactly where you want to go and where you're meant to be.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that. And there is something I forgot to bring up, and I'm going to do it right now. I know that you're speaking at GrowCon. GrowCon's an event for owners of accounting firms. It's basically where we have owners come together and work on their business, interacting with peers, and more importantly, hearing from the experts from the stage. So for everyone listening, if you haven't, definitely book your ticket to come and join us at GrowCon. GrowCon is basically an annual event that you do not want to miss. And as a conference, it's something that you can really come, step away from your business, retreat and regroup, and in that process, go back and become the greater leader you need to be. So what are you going to be talking about at GrowCon?
At GrowCon, I am going to be talking about how to attract higher level clients. I'm going to be talking about a little bit of a law of attraction, but also some tactical, practical content and copywriting frameworks that you can plug right into your business and start utilizing the day of. So I'm going to give everyone there some tasks that they can actually do to start getting themselves out there so they can get visible and attract the right clients.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. I'm glad we're ending on this. So for everyone that would like more information about GrowCon, go to the episode description. You can find out more information there, or you can visit us at universalaccounting.com, and in the navigation, you'll see information regarding GrowCon specifically. In addition to all of that, I do want to mention that if you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, definitely do so. Obviously, we have episodes like this time and time again where we listen to the experts, what it is they're doing in their business, what it is that they feel we need to address as we're trying to actually build the premier accounting firm. So I encourage you to like, subscribe, follow, and at the same time, encourage you to go back and binge listen to some of our previous episodes. In fact, at universalaccounting.com, you can find there some highlights where we've put together some playlists that you should check out. That's where we've collected past guests and put them into clusters as to marketing, sales, mental health, just a variety of different themes that you can actually focus on. I would encourage you to check that out. So subscribe to and definitely listen to past episodes. And each and every week, we'll be releasing new ones. In addition to all this, if you'd like to apply these principles in your business, if you'd like to learn more about what you can be doing to build the premier accounting firm, check us out by going to universalaccounting.com or give us a phone call. You can reach us at 801-265-3777. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care. Have a great day and be safe out there, everybody.